Hello, everyone, and welcome to Data Prize's latest webinar, Cybersecurity Challenges in the Mid-Market and How to Overcome Them, hosted by Stephen Jones, Data Prize's Senior Director of Cybersecurity. My name is Christina Mack, Senior Marketing Manager here at Data Prize. For those of you unfamiliar with Data Prize, we are a leading IT solution provider partner to strategic mid-market businesses who believe that technology should allow you to be the best at what you do. Data Prize delivers best-in-class managed security, infrastructure, collaboration, and end-user solutions tailored to strategic mid-market CIOs' needs. We appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join us. If you have any questions during the webinar, please feel free to type them out into the question panel on the right-hand side of this webinar, and we will address them at the end. Today, we are going to cover 5 cybersecurity challenges mid-market organizations are facing in 2021 and beyond. We'll talk about challenges procuring the necessary resources to run an in-source security operations center, or SOC, the challenges of identifying and filling gaps in your cybersecurity capabilities, achieving and maintaining cybersecurity visibility. We'll talk about integrating your cybersecurity program with other critical IT programs. And last but not least, we will explore making the decision to partner with an MSSP and how to maintain ownership and control of your data. Now, I'd like to introduce our presenter for today, our Senior Director of Cybersecurity, Stephen Jones. Take it away, Jones.
All right, thank you, Christina, and welcome to the webinar, everyone. I wanted to take just a brief moment to introduce myself before we get started. So my name is Stephen Jones. I am the Senior Director of Cybersecurity for Data Prize. And I've been in the IT and security industry for about 20 years, beginning my career in the federal government. I spent the first decade of my career building, running, and managing security operations centers for the 3-letter intelligence agencies, and the second decade in the commercial sector, where I co-founded and built a pure-play managed security service provider from the ground up. I joined Data Prize to continue my work with developing and growing MSSP offerings. And today I lead our cybersecurity department, and I'm charged with taking our managed security services to the next level with market-leading managed security offerings and services. And lastly, on a personal note, when I'm not sitting behind a keyboard, I run an equine rescue farm with my wife where we rescue horses from slaughter, rehabilitate them, and help them find forever homes. And this is where I get my high-tech and low-tech balance that makes everything work. So with that out of the way, let's get going and talk about the challenges that mid-market organizations are facing. But first, let's take a moment to define what a mid-market organization looks like. I'm going to use the definition that's provided by Gartner because I believe it provides a great set of metrics for visualizing where such an organization sits from a revenue and budgeting perspective. And these are not absolutes. Your organization might fit some of these criteria, but not others, and that's perfectly okay. Every business is different, and this definition really just serves to establish a ballpark that we're going to use for the rest of the webinar when we're talking about size and shape of an organization. So a mid-market organization can be defined as having between 50 million and 100 billion in revenue, or 100 million in revenue, sorry. Less than 30 IT staff, and this covers all of IT, not just cybersecurity, which is a subset of IT, and an IT budget of less than about $20 million. So with this definition in place, let's talk about the first cybersecurity challenge facing mid-market organizations today. So procuring resources to run an in-sourced SOC. So the first challenge that we're going to talk about is procuring the resources necessary to run your own in-sourced or in-house security operations center. And these resources include security hardware, for example, IDS, IPS, servers, other types of security hardware, security software, including endpoint solutions, multi-factor authentication, a SIM, even threat feeds. Trained security employees to cover 24/7 by 365. And so in order to provide monitoring around the clock, it's recommended that you have about 12 people working in shifts. And this allows for more than one person per shift to eliminate that single point of failure, as well as coverage for employees that want to take vacation or have sick days. Security training is another expensive cost here. Cybersecurity professionals require industry certifications, which all come with annual maintenance fees, continued education credits. And so your education costs will increase over time as you add additional people and as they add additional certifications. So all of these items require significant investment to procure, set up, and maintain. Going back to the definition for a mid-market organization, if you'll recall, the overall IT budget for a mid-market organization was about $20 million. Surveys and questionnaires from various organizations have established that the median security budget, which is a subset of the overall IT budget, is usually somewhere around 15%. So using the numbers from our definition, this means that on average, there's approximately $3 million allotted to the cybersecurity budget. Now that might sound like a lot, but it goes very quickly with expensive resources like cybersecurity employees and expensive tools. So the Enterprise Strategy Group, ESG, has identified that the majority of mid-market organizations plan to increase that spending in cybersecurity in 2021. And it's estimated that globally we will reach approximately $170 billion by 2022 in cybersecurity spending. These surveys also revealed that about 62% of the respondents said that they would increase their spending, where only 36% said that they'd keep budgets flat. So considering that cybersecurity is really top agenda item for many executives, especially these days, it's likely that spending is going to keep growing. So procuring all of these necessities is a very expensive proposition. In addition to the cost, there's a significant amount of time and experience required to establish your own in-sourced SOC capability. So this is our first challenge. Next, we're going to talk about identifying gaps in your cybersecurity capabilities. So one important thing to note is that the landscape has really changed for mid-market organizations. Attackers have really shifted their tactics and are now aggressively attacking and exploiting mid-market businesses because they have more valuable assets than a small business, but fewer IT security resources than a large enterprise. So a survey conducted by Osterman Research recently revealed that mid-market organizations not only received more phishing emails than small companies, but they even in some cases ranked ahead of large enterprises. So this really indicates the increased attack surface that mid-market businesses are seeing. Many small and mid-sized companies also have business dealings with larger organizations, making them very attractive targets to compromise. A security compromise or incident can have far-reaching effects on clients and partners. A recent example being the SolarWinds supply chain compromise that ultimately affected hundreds of larger organizations, including many US government agencies and offices. Another example from 2019 was a ransomware infection that affected many US dental offices because their cloud remote management software provider was breached. So the impact of a cyber attack can be devastating for mid-market companies. And understanding the gaps in your program and your capabilities and your staffing is really critical. Next, we'll talk about achieving cybersecurity visibility. Cybersecurity visibility is the ability to see the threats in your environment and view them in a way that makes sense to a diverse group of individuals. And this includes your executives, other business units, and auditors. So a report from the Ponemon Institute revealed that greater visibility into applications, data, and devices can actually lower an organization's security risk. Interestingly, in the same report, about half of the companies that responded, it's 55%, said that their companies are not investing in visibility and discovery solutions that could really protect their sensitive data. So cybersecurity visibility is composed of three main disciplines, which are technical, operational, and organizational. Breaking it down into these three discrete areas really makes cybersecurity visibility a less daunting topic. And so we'll explore all three of these things. The technical visibility has to do with external threats and vulnerabilities in your infrastructure. So before you can protect the device or connection, you need to know that it exists and where it is. Operational visibility involves operational compliance and operational processes. Oops, sorry. Organizational visibility means potential threats against the business's intellectual property, brand, or reputation. So achieving cybersecurity visibility is an involved set of tasks with a large return on investment. It's a never-ending process that needs to be maintained and cultivated over time. Some questions to help you begin planning your visibility are, what data do I need to protect? Where is the data located? Where are our critical assets and services? And what can we see and understand today? And again, these are just some questions to start you down the process of thinking about your cybersecurity visibility. So next we'll talk about how to leverage an MSSP while maintaining control. So the industry is moving towards increased rates of adoption for managed security service providers, or MSSPs. As we've explored already, insourcing your security operations center is a very expensive venture, especially at a time where we're all being asked to do more with less. A popular alternative to insourcing the capability is outsourcing to a trusted partner, a managed security service provider. This option can be cheaper by as much as 50% in some cases. On average, my experience says about 25 to 50% cheaper than insourcing. But traditionally, this trade really comes with some risks. And as we all know, cybersecurity is really all about identifying and mitigating risks. So this is no different. Some of the most common risks that you face with an MSSP are being a black box. So that means that you send your data, your security logs, and you get back some level of reporting or incident notification, but no real insight into how it all works. Second risk is that they own your data that you send to them. So once your data is ingested by a provider's SIM, or once it's stored in their cloud or in their data center, it pretty much belongs to them. And then visibility is also a very important factor. When there's no visibility for you, there is no accountability for the provider. So if you can't see what's happening to your data, if you don't understand how they're analyzing or alerting on your data, then you have little to no recourse for holding them accountable. So deciding to work with an MSSP is a big decision, and one that shouldn't be taken lightly. I'd recommend finding a provider that's interested in being a partner and not just a provider. An MSSP that'll work with your existing team and capabilities that will provide a faster return on investment and a more robust solution for you. You should ask the tough questions and don't settle. There are hundreds of providers in the space, and likely one out there that can provide the services you need at a price that works within your budget. So next we'll talk about integrating security throughout your business. So if it's been a while since your business strategy was initially created, it's likely missing cybersecurity as one of its strategic initiatives. The role of cybersecurity has dramatically changed for the C-suite and should be reevaluated in terms of its impact on your strategy. In today's landscape, every organization is in the business of cybersecurity, whether you manufacture shoes, computers, or food products. Every organization uses information systems and has a role to play in cybersecurity. So you can achieve success by adopting the following best practices for integrating cybersecurity with your business. Identify your business's key goals and aspirations. What's the overall purpose of your organization? Evaluate the specific milestones you've set to realize that purpose, and now look at them in a new way. How does cybersecurity make or break your mission? Identify areas of weakness in your cybersecurity hygiene. C-level executives are really good at considering threats impacting things like financial risk, competitive changes, loss of key employees, market shifts, and other disasters. But now add cybersecurity risk to the same equation. Also, it's important that you don't make the mistake of assuming that your IT department is covering the space for your business. You should validate that. Determine how your people, processes, and technology need to evolve. The cybersecurity landscape is constantly changing, and you need to make sure that your people, processes, and technology are able to swiftly adapt as well. Humans are generally the root cause of security incidents, whether it's out of ignorance or malice. And so it's really up to your organization to ensure that all personnel understand the cyber threats they're faced with on a day-to-day basis. Implement a strategy for cybersecurity best practices. Once you've identified your key goals and aspirations, you've identified areas of weakness in your cybersecurity hygiene and found ways that your people, processes, and technology need to evolve, you need to decide how exactly you're going to implement these best practices. Will you use a framework like NIST to guide your efforts? And leverage cybersecurity and compliance for success. Strategic planning is what guides all that you do in your organization. Cybersecurity and compliance are strategic initiatives that serve as benchmarks for your business. Do you have a cybersecurity mission? Have you identified your cybersecurity goals? What are your plans to get there? And have you defined all of the resources that you'll need? So mid-market organizations will remain vulnerable until IT and cybersecurity are a central pillar of your operations. Just grab a drink of water. So let's talk now through some solutions to these challenges. So on the challenge of identifying gaps in your cybersecurity capabilities and achieving cybersecurity visibility, so these two challenges that we talked about, the solutions, pardon me, the solutions to these two challenges are intrinsically linked, so we can cover them both at the same time. The Cybersecurity Maturity Model Assessment is a service that we offer. It's an in-depth assessment of your security posture, your practices, your controls, and requirements, and it outputs a quantifiable number or a score representing your current maturity level. This assessment can be rerun periodically, and we recommend actually quarterly running this so that we can track and trend your score over time to demonstrate and visualize your maturity improvements. The other output of this cybersecurity maturity model assessment is a detailed roadmap with recommendations designed to help drive your security maturity with actionable recommendations and industry best practices. As a security partner, we want to provide you with the information you need to make data-driven decisions about your business. So for the challenge of procuring resources to run an in-sourced security operations center. So making the decision to outsource your security operations function is a great step towards achieving a higher level of security maturity while working with a less than ideal budget. Outsourcing the SOC capability to an MSSP can be a cost-effective alternative to the traditional insourcing model. And getting all of the capability for a fraction of the cost and without the additional requirement for maintaining equipment and retaining highly trained cybersecurity professionals is a great way to make a significant impact on your security maturity. An outsourced MSSP can provide all of the people, process, and technology with an implementation time measured in weeks, not months. In weeks, not months or years. For the challenge of leveraging an MSSP while maintaining control, once you've decided to make that decision to outsource to an MSSP, really take your time and do your due diligence to make sure you find the right MSSP. Understand what they will and will not provide. Ask where your data will live and if you can have it back when or if you leave. When switching MSSPs, for those who have worked with one or who have a current relationship with an MSSP, leaving or deciding to go to another MSP or insource that capability can be a very painful process if you have to start from scratch, meaning you don't have the last X number of years of data that you sent to that existing MSSP or that prior MSSP. So DataPrize's managed security offering was built on the core tenet that it's your data and we are your security partner. So our managed SOC service is built on an architecture that lets you keep your data even if you don't keep us as your provider. And for the last challenge of integrating security throughout the business, scheduling time with a virtual CISO can provide the consultation needed to make sure that cybersecurity is integrated across the different aspects of your business. We have multiple solutions and services designed to help you integrate security throughout the vital areas of your business. So if your organization's facing any of the challenges we discussed today, please reach out to Data Prize and speak with an account executive who can talk through your challenges to understand what they are and how they're impacting your business today. We can use this information to provide tailored suggestions for solutions and services that Data Prize could provide to help you solve the challenges and increase your cybersecurity posture. So in closing, that wraps up this webinar. Again, my name is Stephen Jones. I'm the Senior Director for Cybersecurity for Data Prize. I want to thank you all for taking time out of your day to join me for this webinar. And as a thank you, we have a freebie for being a participant in our webinar today. We'd like to offer a free, no obligation cybersecurity posture check, which takes just a few minutes to complete. This posture check is designed to give you a rough idea of your security posture based on asking a handful of questions aimed at understanding the capabilities you have in place today and the gaps that may exist in your program. Once completed, you'll receive a report with analysis of your answers, along with some recommendations for making quick improvements to your cybersecurity maturity. You can access the posture check at the link here on this slide. So, all right, folks, that brings us to the question and answer portion of this webinar. So I'm going to pause here to see if there are any questions from the audience. There is a question area. I know Christina mentioned this earlier on the right side of your screen. If you want to type any questions out, we will try to answer as many of them as we can with the remainder of our time. So Christina, I don't think I can see them on my side. Are there any questions in the chat area?
Yep, we have a couple in here. The first one, how do you handle working with a business that has a hybrid approach with some areas of cybersecurity outsourced and others insourced?
Oh, no, that's a great question. And so that is a very reasonable approach to this as well. It does not have to be a black and white approach to only insource or only outsource. I mentioned that our approach here at Data Prize is really to be your security partner. Our solutions are designed to provide the entire capability, but really to mesh and coexist with your existing processes, procedures, and staff. So with a mid-market organization, you're likely going to have some existing cybersecurity employees. You're probably going to have some portions of that program running. And so with a hybrid approach, you can outsource the components that you need while keeping the components that you already have staffed, already have investment in running as is. So we very much can work with that hybrid approach where we can come and really fill the gaps in your program after doing kind of an assessment to understand that and bringing the people, process, and technology needed to fill in any of those missing components.
I have another question here as well. I'm currently working with an MSSP that has some of the risks you mentioned. How can I work to mitigate them?
That's another great question. So for any existing relationship, it's really all about communication. I would say, really open the doors of communication to understand what they're willing to share with you. So if they are a black box where you send data and sometimes you get alerting back or some sort of reporting back, I would press them to share more, to really understand how they're alerting on that information, how they're processing that data. What kinds of correlations are they doing? What data sources are they correlating against? That would really give you a good idea of how well you're protected based on the level of effort that they're providing. Additionally, I would also open that conversation up about what happens to your data, where does it live, where does it sit, and those things can really give you good insight as well over how things would work if you decided to sever or separate that relationship. And of course, if your MSSP is not willing to answer those questions or is unable to answer those questions, as I mentioned before, there are 100 plus players in this space, and there certainly are other options that can provide the services that you need the way that you need to consume them. Great. Was there anything else there, Christina, in the hopper?
Nope, that was it for the questions.
Okay, excellent. Well, if there are no other questions, thank you very much for taking time out of your day, out of your lunch break, to spend some time with us and hear a little bit about mid-market challenges and how DataPrize is providing some solutions to these. So please feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions or if you'd like to talk with an account executive about any challenges you might be facing. So thank you very much and goodbye.